1380 KBMs, Vancouver, Portland.
Well, good morning, Vancouver and Portland. This is Angela. It's 25 minutes to 12. Before we get back into playing some really wonderful gospel music.
When I was younger, I always used to take my remote control cars apart, try to build them back together. Benson High School had a tech show, and you got to see all the different courses that they have there. I basically planned from a younger age to go there. I was able to get in, majored in electrical. I loved it. 2008, graduated, and I got a job with an electric company right when the economy crashed. So they ended up laying me off. My dad was the foreman for a construction company. I started to do paving with them and also starting to drive. Working with my dad, he's such a nice person. He would just do things a lot of times himself. I'm a brat, so I had to go somewhere else to grow and mature properly, really. Raimore gave me an apprenticeship of being a manager. Been doing that now for just about a year and a half. I mean, it's been fun. It's been a lot to learn. I try to be a sponge for every single situation that I'm in. The more experience you have, the more valuable you are. So when I'm out, my salary should be around $80,000, if not more. I tell all my friends, try to offer them opportunities to come and work with me because I was given that opportunity to grow and to make a really, really good living. If you're in management, you have to be a leader. How can I motivate these guys and help these guys to be better? And being able to look at yourself and say, okay, I have to be more humble and willing to take direction. I'm thankful for the people for being patient with me to help me to learn and to grow in these areas. They're always giving me this perspective of, or when you're doing your own thing, whether it's with your dad's company or if it's somewhere else, you need to be prepared to understand these certain aspects of whatever we're learning. So they're always giving me the idea that I have options and I have choices that I can make. Bailey's Construction, my dad's company, has been around for about 13 years. This is one of the first trucks that he had. Raimore was very, very helpful to help us grow. Being a sub there with them and being able to do the trucking, it's something that's such a great opportunity. Having our own business is something that feels pretty amazing to be able to be successful in this field, especially in Portland, Oregon, as an African-American owned company. I know I have this opportunity to be successful here, and there's a lot of people who are pushing and helping us be successful. So I got some big shoes to fill. Just my goal to try to make them proud.
Jeff and Tony and D'Angelo, I just want to know about what is it about you all that makes you all want to do this for the right reasons, and what is it about your Black experience that really gets you motivated to be where you're trying to do this? Why don't y'all just take the money and run? Why don't you just go ahead and get wealth and stuff it in your pocket and hell, run off to Florida or, wherever the hell people go with all their money? Why don't you just get you a rocket ship and go on up in with like Basil or something? What is it about your culture that makes you want to do this stuff? Because most people wouldn't do this. Most people would go a different way.
I'll start this one off. So for me personally, I'm a third generation Portlander. My mother and my father were born and raised here. My grandmother and my grandfather moved here. And I've been here for 30 years, been here my whole life. I've always seen the Black experience in Northeast Portland. It's where I grew up in. My family's been very involved in the city, whether it be, through various workforce opportunities, schooling, NAACP, what have you. When I was 12 years old, we were actually displaced out of our home on 13th and Killingsworth. And so 12 years later, when I was 24 years old, I made it back to the neighborhood. And now I'm in a place where I grew up at, where people are looking at me like I don't belong. And I understand that the way that happened is, as Jeff said earlier, with, blight and redlining and how they've kind of marked the city and marginalized us. But I also understand that without an understanding of real economics and real wealth, we can't sustain or even own our neighborhoods. And like I said earlier, it kind of forces us to play this game where we're always at the mercy of white benevolence. And so we either have to rent our own home or rent someone else's home or move into a low-income housing trap, which at that point you become the equity of somebody else. So you as a Black person are never allowed to actually have and build your own equity. And that's not a sustainable lifestyle for anybody. If anything, it perpetuates the same issues and the same trauma that we've had done to us historically. So my passion for this comes based on the fact that not only have I seen it how not only was it done to me, but I've seen it done historically. And I understand the historical connotations on how we got here, which a lot of younger Black people don't understand. So we have to bring truth to that. And by being being in the forefront of it and then being able to do it and show people, they can understand the truth of how we got here and then make a decision to do something different.
Cool.
Okay.
Right.
So let me add to that. The reason why, I'm gonna say it like the children, there ain't no fun unless the homies can get some, right? This is not about an individual, it's about our community. We are about our community. The same way the Scholar Resource is about our community. James, you've been our community, and the fruit is not in our words. The fruit is in what we've done.
Cool.
So this is about the people. This is about the people. You're right, Posey. I'm in the 1%er. I don't have to do this. I could do all that piece of it, but I haven't had to be in this position for a long time. I've been working to serve the people for 35 years in Northeast Portland. As a youth pastor at Mount Sinai, right? Involved in the whole community, the spiritual community for the last 35 years. I've coached in Cisco Kids and urban sports for 30 years and led Portland Legends. I've been ministering through economics and business for a very, very long time. This is like a lot of you here, a lot of the men here that I've been co-laboring with for 35 years. We've been about our community. And finally, we starting to see some real fruit of that labor in projects like I-5, the empowerment of young men like D'Angelo Money, and all these other young women that we are empowering, men and women that we're empowering of color that actually can speak intelligently to all these issues because they understand where it's come. What the Coalition of Black Men are doing, right? And so many other people out here, the Soul District, fighting for the soul of our people.
It's just a lot of intricate details when it comes to parks. There's a lot of background planning, all this colorful synthetic rubber. You got play equipment, some of it's shipped from Europe. Find it, get prices on it, get it approved by Portland Parks. When you're in the management role on a project, you got to make sure all those things fall in line. I told myself when I was young, I wanted to do something that affected people in a positive way. We had done a lot of projects, but this one really made me fall in love with construction. We opened the park up and all the children came running in. Just to see that effect that your work has on the community, it made me realize this was my purpose, and I want other people to achieve that same feeling. Man, before I found Raimore, I didn't even realize I was lost, but I was. 18 years old, I worked for a big contractor. I ended up falling out of love with construction because it just wasn't the environment for me. Raimore has brought every single thing that was deep down in me out of me, from just the drive, the knowledge, the ability that I had. I realized that I was coasting through life before this. I wasn't really achieving what I could achieve. For me personally, the Rose Quarter Project hits home because I was born right at Emmanuel Hospital. I grew up in that neighborhood. I've seen the changes it's gone through. I've seen what our people have gone through in that neighborhood. It's all about the intention. If we are intentional, if ODOT is intentional, we can make it to where minorities that were displaced can get an opportunity on the project. You gotta be intentional about who you hire, what subs you work with. That's the only way you're going to have change. Infrastructure is what keeps the world running. So this project is an opportunity to get skills that you can use for a lifetime. And you're making a great living wage where you can now own a house, have a family in that house, then you can pass that house down to your family and start creating generational wealth. Those opportunities are in construction with minimal education. Honestly, I dropped out of school. I didn't learn well in school. My learning ways is hands-on. I needed to be doing something to learn it. And they gave me that opportunity here. And I've been able to thrive in this environment.
So, go ahead. Tony. Go ahead, Tony. You want to say something?
Yeah, I can try to keep this tight. So stop me. First, I have to give all praise to Yah. I wouldn't be here without it. I'm a foster kid. I'm the only Black man alive in my family. My brothers are all dead. God has given me the opportunity to be here, period. So I've always been told I got to give to somebody else. My mother didn't say that in my ear. That's been God whispering in my ear ever since I was 8 damn years old. So I've been on fire since I was a boy for my people, period. That's what it's about. The Coalition of Black Men, I learned about that at Rutgers University because for me, it was about a coalition of us working together to address these concerns in our community. This has always been about that for me. And so what I would say is I want to just tell one story and I'm done. My first meeting with James Posey, and it isn't about James Posey and Jeff Moore, it's about the truth being spoken. So I'm a young project manager in affordable housing. James Posey meets me. He says, hey man, what do you do? I said, I'm a project manager building affordable housing. James says, you're building housing at their level of oppression. I go, James, what are you talking about? He says, hey man, if we ain't helping people get a job and get a living, it's a downward spiral to nowhere. They're just saying the same thing. Now, a lot of people get mad at James Posey because he's very frank about what he thinks. I didn't get mad. I was like, damn, that brother's right. And it's the same way I was raised with my foster mother. I didn't like a lot of the way she did stuff, but that sister was right. And that's why my business is named after my mother's Rubitone Development Services. Ruby is my mother because she had that same kind of fire. So that kind of fire has always been around me, pushing me to like continue to do things for my people. So that's where I am. That's why Rose Quarter and the culture we're talking about, it's that kind of culture, community, commitment, humility.
To educate our community about W.E. Du Bois, Booker T. Washington, those dimensions that happen, Marcus Garvey, these are names that are not foreign to us, but is there a baseline what our community should know about the dialogue that goes on between these factions in our community and the historical context? Why are we struggling with trying to educate our community about these full issues? And it's the I-5 history and how we're putting this together, a opportunity to share this kind of dialogue with the rest of the community. I'm gonna leave that to you guys. Tell me, from an educational standpoint, this is a segment that how can we benefit from the I-5 project trying to educate our community?
Well, I think the first comment I would say, James, is absolutely. I think that is some of the uniqueness of the model. Because we're not trying to focus just on Raimore, but to me, this is the model we want replicated, that's what happens in the model. One, you are taught what happened to get you here. How you got here was not just because you were just picked out and you worked hard and got it. You got here because of these things that have happened before in the community. Black people stand on the backs of Black people to get to the point where we are. So absolutely. And I think that's what we have to improve and continue to do a better job of when we work with our young folks, help them to understand how we got here, sacrifice lots of people. I'll stop there.
So in my conversation with people that I talk to in regards to the I-5 project, I talk very little about the project itself. I talk about the benefits, of course, but I talk about the history of the corridor. So I talk about the original construction of the I-5 highway and how it displaced people. I talk about Emmanuel Hospital. I talk about Vanport. I talk about the history of the actual location. And so when people understand the history of the location, they understand why when you say something like, oh, we're bridging the albino community back is important. But because they understand what the community was like before the displacement, then they're able to see the lies and the deceit in the narrative that's being placed now. It's the same thing that I do when I talk about construction and getting Black people in the trades, where Black people believe that the trades are blue collar jobs in general, or I would say in general, people believe that blue collar jobs are beneath them. But then for Black people specifically, you talk about, okay, well, how is this country built? Through the infrastructure, the construction of infrastructure through slave labor. Then you talk about how Black people are locked out of the trades, the unionization of the trades, Jim Crow laws, so on and so forth. You talk about how we were displaced from the trades, but all the opportunities that we have in the trades because we already had the knowledge to begin with. So in order to talk about both the importance of this job, but the importance of our people, we have to show people that in a nutshell, what I'm saying is that it's all related. And so you just give them the parts that they're missing and people can see everything. Once you do that, you just leave it in their hands.
You take it, piggyback on D'Angelo, what he's saying, you tell them that, of the top 50 privately held companies in the state of Oregon, 25 of them are construction companies who do a collectively of almost $20 billion a year in annual revenue. So when you start looking at, again, of the privately held companies in the state, 25 of them are construction companies. Construction and development has a construction component. And you help them see this industry as a first choice. We have bought into lies when all the carpenters and the cement masons, electricians, and all these people in these trades under these living wage jobs are white people. These people don't have to go to school and go into all this debt, right? Going to all this debt. They're coming in these trades and they're making anywhere from $80,000 to $125,000 a year. Then they're going on and forming these companies with their skill that they have and making millions of dollars a year through entrepreneurship. And we've been so sold a bill of goods, go to education, you got to get an education, you got to get all, that's what they've been pumping. And we're coming out with hundreds of thousands of dollars in debts, or our children are. Go work for $40,000, $50,000 a year. It's going to take them forever to get to through the glass ceiling that's owned by all these white corporations. It's madness. So this is a great opportunity to wake them up.
You know, in the displacement of the I-5, that Williams Quarter had a whole group of nightclubs and various places. I remember Geneva's. Y'all probably don't want to mention Geneva's. Back in the day, I used to play out there on that, and you know they had bands, and you know I don't even want to go back there no more because it was. But my whole idea is that it was fun. And I'm not seeing a lot of these places like that. But I want to just say, I want to take that statistic you just gave, Jeff. 25 of the largest companies were construction companies. Wouldn't it be interesting to go back and connect the dots on those 25 large companies to see what they actually support under their umbrella, i.e. the museums, i.e. the jazz festivals, i.e. all the surrogate operations they operate because they have the discretion to use resources to make things happen culturally and from an entertainment perspective. You know, when we see the Waterfront Jazz and Blues Festival, the sponsors of that are people who have money. And it would be interesting to find out to what degree the Hoffmans of the world, the Skanskas, and all of them taking those corporate dollars and really supporting the entertainment elements of what they want to see in this community. So I don't know if we ever think about it in that way, but that's how much of the culture of white people come together, because they have the wherewithal, the financial wherewithal to express where they want to be, how they want to entertain themselves, what their culture is going to be like. And we've lost a lot of that because we don't have a Raimore, many Raimores or any large companies that can really umbrella the cultural entertainment capacity that we should as a community. I don't know if you all agree with that or not.
I agree. I think it's even bigger than that, James. I think that, you know, you talked about going to Geneva's. The only reason you can go in Geneva's is you had to have a little change in your pocket to be able to pay the cover charge and to be able to buy a drink or two, right? And without no change in your pocket, so all these entertainment, our people have lost the fact that without economics, you don't have entertainment. Economic drives all of this. You have to have the money to bring the people here and sponsor them. Paul used to bring those bands in because Paul had enough money to bring them in. And then he would hope to create an environment for people to come in and come see those people where he can make his money back, right? But you got to have income and economics to do any of that. And so when you choke off economics, it's just a matter of time before the arts and entertainment is choked out, right? So that's how you start choking out the whole community. Choke them out economically. I can kill their culture. I can kill their arts. I can kill their entertainment because they're caught in a culture of survival.
Yeah.
So, Jeff, you're scaring me, man. I think we're going to need to close this program. You're scaring me with those scenarios, but it's true. I'm really sort of shocked that we come to the realization that if we don't have no money in our pocket, we jammed up. So that's why, you know, I mean, that's why I'm so down for this I-5 project and the way we're trying to go on it. And I'm just hopeful that this message will get out to the rest of our community, that this is just more than brick and mortar we're talking about. There's so many connections that need to occur to make this project happen, so we can begin to have a glimpse of what we used to be. I'm talking about just a glimpse. So this is hope. I don't want to quote Jesse Jackson, but we need to
keep hope alive. Come on, keep hope alive.
All right.
Log on to resourcescholarsshow.com.
And coming up, you're going to hear from Coco Brother with his single entitled Moving Forward. So keep it tuned here to 1480
KBMS, Vancouver, Portland.